my goodness, I love this question. It's so surprising. I'm really intentional about listening to music from different genres and even different cultures.
What would be the impact if Taylor Swift would start riding Liv bikes tomorrow?
Whoa, the Taylor effect. We've already seen her incredible impact on culture. Think about the awareness of women's power and importance in culture. She has incredible influence. So that would be a game changer. And of course, that's something that we've dreamed about as a team. And even in her performance that I saw last summer, bikes were kind of integrated into their stage.
Wow.
I was like, bikes and Taylor, I love it. And even to connect back to Taylor Swift, I think she's immensely talented, yes, but she is more and more of who she is. The more that she reveals that, the more inspiring it is. And I think that's true for any individual. What's written on your heart, to find expression for that in the world, that's your superpower, right? Nobody else has that. And the world needs more of that. And so I would tell younger Cassandra that, to be confident in who she is and what she believes in and what she loves, and to let that always be the focus and to take courageous action.
Welcome to Ride Success, the podcast that takes you on a learning journey to a more productive, creative, and active life through the power of the bike. In the podcast, I explore cycling's global trends, community needs, innovative business strategies, and the journeys of remarkable individuals in the world of cycling. On today's episode of Ride to Success, we welcome Cassandra Spring, the global brand manager for Liv Cycling. Cassandra is a strategic leader in brand marketing with a rich background in managing multi-channel campaigns and building global communities. She's known for a dedication to promoting diversity and inclusion within the cycling industry. Recently, Liv Cycling launched the Grassroots program in partnership with the Liv Alula Jaco Women's Continental Team. She has played a pivotal role in this initiative, which aims to support young, aspiring female cyclists from around the world by providing them with professional level training and resources. Cassandra has also been instrumental in Liv Cycling's involvement with the Tour de France Femme, avec Zwift, where the company sponsors the white jersey. This sponsorship highlights Liv's commitment to elevating the visibility of women's sport and promoting equity in cycling. So join me in this learning journey as I delve into her career, insights into women's cycling, the impactful work she continues to do at Liv Cycling, and of course, we couldn't have a conversation with Cassandra Spring without touching on the impact of the Tour de France Femme, avec Zwift. But before we get into the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, I have a huge request to ask you. Through looking at analytics from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, I've noticed that 70% of you that listen to the podcast are not following it. So my request to you is this. If podcasts resonates with you, please give us a follow. It helps me to reach new audiences and continue to bring inspiring guests for us to go on a learning journey together. Now, back to the podcast. Welcome, Cassandra, to Ride to Success. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I really am excited to connect with you today.
Brilliant. So am I. I wanted to start today in a different note because you have a diverse and eclectic music taste. and the music that you like range from indie rock and folk to electronic and R&B. So I wanted to start our conversation by really trying to understand, what does music bring to your life?
Oh my goodness, I love this question. It's so surprising. I grew up in a household where music was always on and different genres were also always playing. In fact, there were speakers in every room, almost every room of the house.
Oh,
and
wow.
we weren't a family of a lot of means. So you understand it was a priority for my parents and my father especially. So I feel very grateful that I had early exposure to blues and folk and rock, and then as my own, and classical as well. And as my own tastes developed, those continue to be a part of my, interests. And now I can say I'm really intentional about listening to music from, different genres and even different cultures. To me, there's something about having a global perspective that is informed by many things. And it's informed by people, it's informed by travel and by food, of course. But music also plays an important role. So I'd say that's some of my motivation. So that's why my musical tastes are somewhat varied. And I actually, for me, I think that to be able to share good music or new music is just a wonderful gift that doesn't necessarily cost a lot, but it's so appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, that's music conveys so many emotions, so many meanings, and you can enter like almost a flow state just by listening to the right music, and also the role models that from artists are, when you listen to them, it becomes even more powerful when you have their voice in your ears and just that kind of the message that they are conveying as well. I couldn't help but notice that, Taylor Swift popped up a few times.
Yes.
And I was just wondering and thinking about this, and I'm wondering what would be the impact if Taylor Swift would start riding Liv bikes tomorrow.
Whoa, the Taylor effect. We've already seen her incredible impact on culture in so many ways. And I think she's actually, think about the awareness of women's power and importance in culture. She looms large. There's others, of course. She's a very American example. And in some ways, she kind of fits into a traditional mold of, beauty, I can say. But wow, I think that she is a phenomenal, not only a phenomenal performer. I've been lucky enough to see her live, but she's she's very intentional in her actions. So if she were to choose to ride with Liv, I would be tremendously honored. And of course, I think it would, she has incredible influence. So that would be a game changer in many ways. Of course, that's something that we've dreamed about as a team. And even in her performance that I saw, it was last summer, bikes were kind of integrated into their stage. And they were, it was just kind of more a cruiser style bike. But I was like, bikes and Taylor, I love it. So, I think pretty much there's a lot of people in this world right now that would love an endorsement from Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I guess you just gave a call to action to all the Swifties listening to the podcast. Just start the campaign, get Taylor Swift on a Liv bike.
Yeah, I think our values are, there's some alignment in our values. I could say that with confidence. And I do have, I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that might also have Taylor Swift in their heads when they're riding along too. So
I'm sure.
This morning I actually got out for an early mountain bike ride in the forest, and it was a really steep ascent, and I was getting up to the top of it, and there's like the kind of like it's like switchback that's really like extra oomph. And then I was like, okay. And then are we out of the woods? I was like, are we out of the woods? It was kind of, so I kind of have that
great timing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I mean, yeah, she's such a powerful influence. Wherever she literally creates earthquakes, literally. So yeah, her influence and power is beyond imaginable, really. But it goes to show that a person, an artist, can have such a powerful message to share, and that reciprocates with so many people that see themselves in her actions, in the message as well. So yeah, I thought that was an important comparison to bring to the conversation, because your role as Liv's global brand manager, advocating for the power of community in cycling to shape really the future of women cycling. Taylor Swift has also been in their own way shaping women, empowering them, giving them life-affirming messages and sharing their story that resonates with millions of men and women equally. So with that said, you mentioned you were riding today a mountain bike. And I wanted to join the dots here. I mean, you have been a strong advocate for the power of community in cycling and bringing more women into cycling. So I'm interested to delve a bit more into how do your personal passion for cycling align with Liv Cycling mission to welcome women and girls into the sport that we all love, cycling.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I am very passionate about cycling and that element of community. You know, I was a kid that by nature, as soon as I had a bike, I was like challenging the neighborhood kids to like race up and down the street. It was just kind of instinct. And I also am the eldest of 6, and I was helping others learn how to ride bikes, some more successful than others. But it was just something that I just had that drew me close. But I fell in love with cycling culture when I really found community. And that first community for me was, I lived in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and they had a town challenge race series. And week after week, it would be a slightly different format, but people would come out and race or cheer. And it was just, I showed up the first time, you know, a beginner mountain bike race. And I had success. I don't remember exactly how I finished, but well enough to know I should be in the sport category. But it wasn't, the win was like how everybody was out and cheering each other on and supportive. And so I don't know, that kind of hooked me. And as somebody that really wants to create a sense of belonging in a world where I think things are becoming a little more fragmented, to feel a sense of belonging to cycling and cycling culture it's been transformative in my life. And so I want others to have that opportunity. I believe that anybody that wants to bike belongs as a cyclist, right? And I want people to know that. And so that really does connect with Liv's mission to get more women and girls on bikes. And, you know, at Liv, we're fortunate. We have this focus. But I also love that the industry is really talking more and more about the need for an inclusive future. And so, you know, from a product perspective, and, you know, even thinking about no matter what size you are, you deserve to have good equipment from a product perspective, right? And then from a skills perspective, where can you find resources to learn and to get a sense of the basics so that you can have a safe start into cycling? And also, you know, from an event perspective, is there something near where you live? And can you show up as a beginner or as somebody that's never done cycling before and feel welcome? I'm really invested in that and contributing, you know, it's important. The contribution to a more inclusive future, and Liv is the way that I get to do that right now with an extraordinary team and extraordinary mission.
Yeah. Wow. That's a powerful message. We, as part of the cycling community, need an inclusive and safe space for any woman, person to come into the sport, to come to wherever the entry point is, but to feel welcome and have the tools, the resources, whether that is a bike or whether that is people that can help mentor them and feel welcome. Really, it sounds like you found your dream job. You kind of the way you put it, it sounds that you have found like your calling.
Oh, thank you. I do feel very fortunate that I get to have fun on purpose, that I get to work with an international team, and I get to always listen and learn. So there are a lot of very dreamy elements to this job. And also there are still, you know, like anything else, opportunities for growth and places of like personal growth, and then within the organization, this aspiration to continue to develop and become a better leader.
And you mentioned about bringing inclusivity and making the cycling community more inclusive, which is happening, but it still needs a lot of work to be done on it. And one of the key objectives is to, through Liv Cycling, contribute to an equitable future.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you build and maintain through the partnerships that you have set up at Liv Cycling or within the cycling industry, so that these partnerships can promote and create gender equality, or not for me, but for the people that don't see it as a necessity?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think first you asked about, how do we partner? And I think that there's a lot of intention there. It's really, there's, people that come on the radar, and I would say Aisha McGowan is an incredible catalyst and really been a force within the industry. And she has a very international kind of presence as an advocate to bring more people of color and women of color into the sport. And truly, by working with people, they're doing the work, and it's allowing them the space to do what they see needs to be done. And also, it's kind of finding that way of understanding impact, right? Because at the end of the day, it is a business. And so we have to always be looking at that. But and it's not just from, a global marketing team perspective, because we have Liv leaders around the world. And so they too are looking to their communities for those catalysts, those champions, those people that are taking extra time to bring others into the sport. And maybe they're doing that by content that they're sharing online. Maybe they're doing that with group ride offerings. Maybe they're doing that with skills clinics. Maybe it's by representation, working in a bike shop. So that's the first thing. It's the partnerships are having the opportunity, the visibility and the intention, and then kind of purposeful action together, and also an impact, plan and a way of defining that. And I think there is another part of that question, and now I might be losing the thread a little bit, but that's a first piece of it. Oh, I think it was more about gender equality, and I think it's because although again our focus at Liv, I think there's a really amazing opportunity, and we get to do this, right? And that was really, it's part of how the brand was born and part of the mission from Bonnie Tu, who is the founder of Liv.
Yes, of course.
But I would question, when people ask, maybe it's not for me, or why do we need to do this? If the world's things are better, and I also would flip it and say, why wouldn't we? Why don't we? How is it hurting to think about things differently, to put, have women as the first thought rather than the afterthought in every element of the, in development of product, and then also in all of the, actions and decisions that are made on behalf of the brand. So I actually think not only for women, there's plenty of space for diversity in leadership and more perspectives. That's actually how we're going to get to a more inclusive future. It's not for just one type of person or one gender or, just a few, a very similar homogenous type group of people making decisions for everyone that wants to ride bikes around the world. It's for more and more leadership that is diverse, that recognizes that there are different needs and that a sense of belonging is achieved in different ways. And so, that's the hope that I have is that continues to develop. And I think that we're seeing some of that happening. And I also believe there's room for much more.
Yeah, that's so important, because you have to have projects, organizations that operate at grassroots level, but also you have to have opportunities at C-suite level, so that there's this change at both levels, and the people that most likely will have the most power will be the ones at C-suite that can bring different perspectives, can impact directly decision making. And that's one of the key things that you have been actively involved, that we'll touch upon later, which is ways of supporting women in the industry, in the cycling industry, encouraging them to the next generation, the current generation, to come into the industry, and for the current ones that are still women working in the industry, to stay as well in the industry and encourage them to progress and develop in their career. So we'll touch on that as well. But I wanted to bring specifically to the grassroots level, because through looking at what Liv has been doing, he has not long ago, a few months ago, created a grassroots program in partnership with Liv Alula Jayco Women's Continental Team. So I just wanted to, and obviously you have other grassroots programs, but I'm interested in this one specifically. How is it benefiting women from ethnic minority backgrounds that don't have access to a bike, or how is it kind of making the bridge for women that see the sport of cycling? I've watched the Tour de France Femme, avec, Zwift, which is going on at the moment, which is so exciting. We'll touch upon this. We can't have a conversation with Cassandra without touching on this, so bear in mind, we'll touch on this in a minute. But they see the Tour de France Femme, avec, Zwift, and it's like, wow, okay, how can I do this? There must be a pathway. So just share with the kind of what has been the ambition with this program.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. And it is more, in that performance realm. But what the Grassroots program does is it enables parts of the world that don't have formalized training programs or opportunities for riders with big ambitions and aspirations. And so it allows people in those countries and just in, around the world to identify those young, very talented riders that just might need exposure and opportunity, training, and to what all of the possibilities are. So it's a nomination process of those talented and ambitious young riders. And then they go to a camp that is with the Liv Alula Jayco team, and they're participating in workshops and in rides and doing testing, and have this forum to ask whatever questions they might have, right? So it's I think the thing, having been on the ground for our pilot project this year, the thing that I thought was almost like the most beautiful was that there were some of the development team riders that were participating in the camp as well. And so you got to really see these young women connect and just feel that sense of like, oh my gosh, you're there. Like, and so they had this natural mentoring that was happening. And what we're seeing as we're still in the early stages of building this out is really formalizing in that program a mentoring opportunity. Because again, I believe in the power of mentorship.
Yes.
And I love that that's really gaining more momentum in the cycling industry. But certainly in this place too, having that person, having somebody, if you live in Colombia, which one of our young riders does, that you have a person that has experience where you can ask them anything, right? Where you can feel encouraged and have very practical information to stay on the path, and that there is more of a defined path. And with that testing and with that exposure to a team camp environment, really understanding kind of what next steps are and could be. So for this grassroots program with Liv Jaco, that's what's happening there. It's really exciting to see that and to imagine how we can do it. How can we do this in a way that will have sustained impact for the participants?
Yeah, and also I guess it works as a way of almost as a talent ID, bringing
That's right.
athletes that wouldn't have the pathway or the resources to learn from one of the best teams in the professional racing scene in women's cycling, and give them the tools to develop as an athlete, but also as a person. And I mean, that's the professional side. That's the kind of the performance side, as you said. Is there communities that you support, for instance, in the US or in other country, that are more towards just having a group of people, a group of women that want to ride together, and you as a brand, the global brand, kind of supports that? So it's rather than focusing on the sporty side of it, but more of the leisure, the just being out in nature, riding bikes.
So we have an ambassador program, and not only are there global ambassadors, and that's where Aisha McGowan and the Black Foxes and the Abundance Project, they are living in that space. We also have ambassador programs that are really managed regionally. So in different parts of the world. So if you're in Taiwan, or if you're in Canada, or if you're in Colombia, there's different ambassador programs. And what I like about this model is that it's those, community catalysts and champions that are in those places being identified and working together with Liv to offer clinics, to offer just a ride opportunity, to really just connect with local community members, people identifying as women who want to participate in cycling activities. So it's not necessarily at the level of being an expert already. So there's great expressions that are examples of ambassadors, and I'm thinking of a really active woman in Poland who is getting more women to try gravel riding, and just offering those opportunities to learn about essentials of a gravel bike, and then inviting them onto gravel riding adventures. And there's a lot of fun examples. I also am loving the fact, kind of related to this, that we're seeing a lot of growth in women's cycling in China right now. And part of that is because they're really effectively building communities. And I love that. I love that there is more and more kind of interest, and it's not just interest, it's fluency and gaining confidence in being able to ride. And again, I think that's really cultivated through those cycling catalysts that we get to work with.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a great model of, again, like thinking globally but acting regionally. I mean, I can think of a club in London, the Camden Live Cycling Club. So it's very welcoming, grassroots level, kind of has all different types of levels from racing just to park rides. It's also interesting that you mentioned about China. I mean, you said it. Women are very good at creating communities. What specifically? I mean, China is huge market. It's huge potential there. Yeah. How has this started? Has there's been a particular focus from Liv Cycling in getting more women riding Liv bikes? What has been the catalyst in this specific market?
I think it is a little bit of that. There's just very energized leadership in the communities there. But I haven't been to China, and I am really eager to have a visit myself and to meet people firsthand. So I have that personal connection. But what I've been told is that there's also, their economy is struggling a bit, and there's people that are turning to recreation and more, like for fun. And so there's some sort of cultural shifting that's at play. And so I think the bike industry, it's not just Liv as a brand, although the Liv brand has really grown there like phenomenally in the last year and a half. But I think there's this energy and there's a momentum because there's more and more women coming out and giving it a go. I think that's the thing. You don't have to be, it's like just show up as you are and we're going to have fun. And I think they have different social media platforms so there's fewer, and they have, and I think there's also just showing back, right? That like the community at play and showing that example. And I think that's also helping. So that's the part, as somebody that is, thinking about the brand and thinking about marketing, that's something that I'm hearing about WeChat and some of the platforms there that are really winning for China.
I mean, with China, you have a growing middle class population with getting a lot of disposable income, and also the society is getting more free time comes with disposable income. So cycling is coming as a way of exploring, going out into nature, finding like-minded people that want to share a hobby, perhaps. So it's fascinating that you probably will see a huge growth from just the growing communities that you're talking about, because that's how the word of mouth is phenomenal at creating brand awareness. I wanted to touch as well, you mentioned it, I mean, everyone is talking about gravel. You touched upon the ambassador wanting to bring more women to ride gravel. And this, looking at gravel, it's a sport that is of its time. The races are equal number of participation. They offer or reserve spots for women. Gravel races, some of them are organized and led by women, and there is a more inclusive space. You have the pros, but also families, women with young kids or just young girls that can ride the same courses that the professionals are riding. So what is the percentage of gravel? What is the focus? How much of the focus is for Liv Cycling, the gravel space?
Yeah, I think it's depending where you are in the world, that would be answered differently. So we know gravel has a really strong hold in North America. We know that it's growing in European countries tremendously. And there's some, I think the growth, so the way that we are supporting organizations in these different parts of the world is really working together with them and understanding what the priority needs are. Though, of course, we're also thinking about where do we have product that really excels, and we have an amazing gravel bike line at Liv. So percentage-wise, I think that's a dynamic answer. And I think for us, the way we try and approach it is from every, when we think about how we're doing our storytelling and how we're doing our guides around gravel riding, do we have, resources where, it's like getting started in different guides that can inform. And so that's something we're thinking about. In the sports marketing space, who are we supporting as athletes and where are they racing? So there is that representation. And then within the different countries, they're making decisions about which events should we be at and where are we kind of having an enlarged presence. And so we on the global team aren't always making those decisions for the regions, but we try and have, a lot of the assets, and we're doing story development to really support the category in a meaningful way. And then also on my side, working with the incredible team that I have, we're working cross-functionally with product teams. Our woman, Liddy Schultz, who is developing the next kind of generation of the Devote gravel bike platform, in conversation with Jen Audia, who's our product marketing manager, and also with our sports marketing lead, Liz Walker. So we're thinking about, what's the evolution, and having those conversations together. And then with our content lead and our, each team member brings a lot of expertise. And so then we work together, and we work with those ambassadors actually. So in some of those markets, we're like, Poland's a good example, in Canada, in the US, in Germany, we are working with those teams to identify riders and or content creators that we can work together with. So it's really fun because there is this kind of the approach. It's a holistic one, and and we're trying to move more and more in that direction, right? Where there is this, everybody is in on the why of what we're doing and how we're supporting the category.
Yeah, and then that brings different voices, different perspectives to the table, and so that people can have their opinion, their take, and in a way contribute to the development, whether that is of a new gravel bike, a new lineup of gravel bikes, or whether that is through what story or what message you want to, how it will resonate with the specific audiences, whether that is in Germany or in the US. Mm-hmm. So that's a very good approach of how to think and how to develop the brand and the product as well.
And I do want to, you noted it, and we do love this category, and we feel alignments, because there is, again, it's such intention. And you mentioned even some race design, like SBT is a great organization. I think Amy Charity, I know she has an awesome team, but there was, out of the gate, this like wanting to have a place for women's representation. We know that representation makes a difference, right? It's so important. So we do feel a kind of, it's funny to say it in this way, a kinship to the category.
Yeah, it's fine because it's, you have, it's gravel, it's of its time. It's very inclusive. It's bringing gender equality into how it portrays the races, how its story tells. So it's, when you think of mountain biking, you think of quite male dominated. When you think of road cycling, again, you think of quite more male dominated. And when you think of gravel, it's balanced in my view. So there is that. We've been talking about the programs that you have at Grassroots, the ambassador programs, where you are positioning the brand. But also there's a point that we touched earlier on, is about making the right opportunities, or having the right opportunities at the leadership level. And, you want to have passionate women that are driven and have a purpose, but sometimes they do not see the pathway to the C-suite level. And you're quite passionate about this topic. Can you share some insights into kind of, one, your leadership style, and two, how are you, through mentoring younger women, to come into the sport and take leadership positions and retain the talent that already exists here?
Thank you. My style, I really believe in strengths-based leadership, and even, I'd say, servant leadership to a degree. And so if I can be in service of a mission, then that's what I try and have focus on. I get to work with a really remarkable team And I see the strengths and focus on the strengths and ask about growth and their ambitions and how they want to develop. And I think the best thing that I can do is clear a path for their visibility. And so I think there's a style of leadership that a person stands in front of a lot of work, and the people that helped create that work aren't as visible. And what I'm doing more and more is stepping out of the way so they can also be seen for the work that they're doing. And I think that's really powerful. It is vulnerable, especially when you don't have a lot of experience. And I was lucky enough in my career. I had, previous career in the world of branding and advertising in an agency format, and had a phenomenal leader who gave opportunities like that for me, like public speaking opportunities when I was quite junior. And that's how, you really can stretch and grow into leadership roles. Yeah. It's interesting because as a mentor, I am mentoring in more than one program. I'm really so appreciative of the Uplift program and Rachel Burnside. I think, I think a lot of people can agree on the benefits of mentorship programs, but it takes a lot of energy and a lot of focused attention to really achieve the creation of one. And for her, in such a short amount of time, I think there's been a lot of impact in the industry, and I'm really proud to
for sure, yes,
to volunteer time with them. So I've been able to mentor in that program, and I also mentor for a program within the outdoor industry. And for the first time, I have a male mentee for the past few months in this other program, and he asked me, he said, what's something that is different? He's like, I'm so curious because usually you're working with women. What's one thing that you would identify as being different working with me? And I said, you've never brought up imposter syndrome.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yes.
Truly, that is the thing. Every woman that I have worked with in Uplift and in the Futurist Project, they are so sharp and so driven and so strategic and want to do big things. Really what the conversation is like, how do you do more of your highest level and allow those things that you get praised for that are not as impactful, let those things go. But you can understand how if you have been rewarded for doing all of the things and managing all of the details throughout your career, it's a hard thing to let go of. And so I think that's really been a big, interesting pattern, is just allowing people to understand and identify and claim, like how they want to serve, how they want to grow in their career, and how they can create that space by really being focused on impact to the organization. And then, sometimes it's also just learning how to communicate that to executives when you don't have practice doing so.
Yeah. I mean, the importance of a mentor cannot be overstated. It's just huge. Being able to have someone that has an insight into the industry, that's one. Two is someone that can fight your corner, can stand by you and kind of hold you up if you need to. And three is just having someone to bounce ideas. Okay, let's clear these up. I don't work in a leadership position, but through my research, through my understanding of it, I know that once you start going up the steps, it can start to feel quite lonely, because not many people can identify into the position you are in, and there are only so many people perhaps that you can talk about the struggles that you're finding. So having that mentor, it's a huge part of being successful, I believe. But you are the leader here. So you can tell me that. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, leadership is funny because it's not necessarily always leading a team, but I do quite align with you on that. And I do, one thing that we've talked about, Rachel and Alexa Cunningham at Shimano Road and Kate Verino, who I know you've interviewed at Zwift. We have a WhatsApp group, and I talk about sometimes the need for that peer mentorship. And I think that's happening more informally. And it's amazingly beneficial to, have those spaces. And I would actually call them brave spaces, inspired by Brene Brown, because nobody can really make it safe, but we can always be brave, right? But creating those conditions for a brave space where you get to be vulnerable and you get to feel that support, that is so necessary when you're trying to do courageous work.
Yeah. Brave. That's a great way of naming it. Brave space. If nothing else, you are planting the seeds to something to grow from this. Or maybe you already started. I don't know.
Well, right now we're like, we really have to make this peer mentorship thing happen. I think what I love is that although there's a lot of demands for anyone in the bike industry right now, I think it is a challenging moment. There's also a lot of people that are planting seeds and are really thinking about how we can continue to evolve and improve, and that's inspiring to me.
Yeah, that's so important because it builds the space, the infrastructure for more women to see the potential to come to have a seat at the leadership table, because then you have different perspectives and you can have better decisions being done. You can have better products, better visibility for the sport side but also it just grows the industry and the sport in general. If you have more women at the table making decisions to change and drive forward the industry. Yeah, I've said it already many times on LinkedIn, where I'm most active. But yeah, I fully support what the work that Rachel has been doing, Uplift program, because it's clear it's beneficial for the industry.
I do want to, absolutely. And I want to raise an example from my own team again, but Liz Walker, who is our Liv Racing team manager. I say this because she's in this position where she's at, especially the World Cup, cross country races, and leading a team that includes, obvious physio, mechanics, chefs. And so she's really in her role intentionally finding women to work across the team and in those positions. And because, it's something that we see and she has identified, and we can all agree that you need an opportunity to gain the experience, right? And so there's that piece too. And I'm close to this example because she's on my team, and I've been so proud of that evolution and the intention. And it really does stand out at the, World Cup racing level. And fortunately, there's more and more women in those roles and in those places. And I just love to see it. And
that's so important, the opportunity, giving the opportunity, because it comes down someone might not have the experience, but if you give them the chance to try, if they have whether that is transferable skills or just the right mindset or the excitement for it, then there's a potential for growth and potential for learning.
That's right.
So that's very important. I wanted to now, obviously, talk about the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift. It is as obviously we are exactly. Obviously, we are recording this before the actual start, but when the podcast goes live, the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift is in full swing. And we have seen from the previous two events, 2022 and 2023, it has been massive in terms of the growth that has created, the stories that have been generated from the athletes, the visibility. It's, I guess it can be said, it's been a game changer for women's cycling. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. And that was actually, when we became partners and sponsors of the tour, it was for that reason. It was like, we need visibility. It's been remarkable. I mean, I think the level up in the last 2 years is extraordinary. It really truly has changed the game. And it's so incredible to witness its maturation, witness the growth, witness the kind of, in the pro peloton, like, wow, it's just incredible. Like the racing level just keeps kind of, I'm looking for exponential growth. That's what is happening right before our eyes, And it's so wonderful to think about the far reaching impacts that we can never measure. And to think about, from an audience perspective, the tour is now broadcast in more than 190 countries. And this year, the Grand Depart is in the Netherlands, and it'll go through Belgium before going into France. And we're thinking about all of the multi-generation families and youth that will be coming out to watch the films, as the Zwift
support,
wonderful saying goes, support these women and all of the dreams, right? All of the dreams and all of the inspiration of that is truly immeasurable. So it's thrilling. And I'm from the beginning, it's been just exciting because there was this like hope and there was a belief and even a conviction, like, oh, this is going to work. And then you see it and you're like, wow, that was better than even we imagined. And so, growing, even more, the expression, it keeps like being this expansive, wonderful thing. So to plan for and to step inside of that again and being part of this, which is now underway, is really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned about Liv Cycling sponsoring the white jersey, the Young Leaders classification, but also being a partner of the Tour de France Femme, avec, Zwift. And I mean, it aligns with the mission of Liv Cycling, which, to promote equity in cycling. And that's what the Tour de France is doing at a large scale. From reading previous interviews you've given, you saw, watch parties being created across many countries, people just gathering to watch the Tour de France Femme, avec, Zwift. There is like the excitement is bubbling, is growing. Is there ways that you, looking back and now you are thinking, okay, when you were in 2023, you said, okay, we need to do better.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been with your team working together to really bring these communities that are gathering around to support the Tour de France Femme, to support women cycling, and what is in the works?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, each year has its own mission, right? Like it's and this year, what I love, we are working in partnership with our team in Benelux, so the Liv team in Benelux, and also our team in France. But on stage 4, and so on the 14th, there is a ride that is going to be a progressive ride through retailers, locations where women can join in. And we now know there's going to be more than 150 women riding to the start of stage 4 at the Shimano. It starts in Valkenburg at the Shimano Experience Center. And so literally more femmes on bikes going to cheer women on. And that's one thing that we're doing. Some of the things that when we're like, how do we do this better? Some of them are really not so visible. And I would say they're not very sexy, so to speak. But it's truly working in partnership with our sales companies, understanding their goals and objectives, and then how we can partner with them, amplify and elevate those efforts. So that's a big part of it. And the ride is something that I'm really excited about because it's a celebration, and I believe in the power of celebration. And it is like all about the women that are our heroes, riding bikes and celebrating them, right? That's just it. It's wonderful how that inspiration can flow, and I think it flows in all directions. So that's really exciting. And then this year Alpe d'Huez is the final stage, and that's an iconic.
Of course, yeah.
Time. And so we also working with the French team. We're really excited to get out and be really energized with the community that's there, and have some celebrations around that too. But there's some less glamorous things that are really related to making sure that for those that aren't in proximity and those that can't be on the ground, again, working with those different parts of the world to organize with intention rides and watch parties. So that's a really big effort. And then also to, when people show up for those events, to bring them closer to the community. Again, it kind of comes back to that place of belonging and that sense of like, yeah, you belong here. You care about more femmes on bikes. You care about Tour de France Femme. Welcome. And so that's something that it's hard to even put our arms around how big it will be. Last year we had watch parties in Japan, in Germany, in Canada, in the US. And this year I know that it's growing from there. I'm excited this year. Some women in Germany, in the German riding community, and Liv, they're joining that ride I was talking about before on what's happening on stage 4. And so that's part of it. And then I think there's this, it's also being able to share the stories and to find that way from an inside, again, like how do we bring people into this experience and thinking about that? Last year we worked with somebody that was really focused on like how to be a fan at the Tour de France Femme, and Katie Burrell, who's phenomenal Canadian comedian and creative force. And this year, it is kind of working with the Liv Alula Jaco team and with some of the riders from the Liv racing teams, and to just show that, like, welcome people into the experience and to be able to kind of at least like translate some of the magic of what's happening with this Tour de France Femme avec Zwift. So. Yeah, I'm so excited for it. And
I can see it. Yeah.
I'm excited because, again, there's a passion for community, there's a passion for cycling, and then there's also just this achievement of the women that is so inspiring. And so to kind of, again, step into that and be a part of this road trip, riding trip, memory is going to be such a powerful thing. Each year I feel transformed by the experience because it allows me to think a little bit bigger and differently about what's possible.
I mean, first of all, it's so exciting to see how excited you are about the Tour de France Femme, which obviously it would be obvious, but it's pours out of you, if you will, the excitement, which is great. And what you said, which is interesting, is that you thinking bigger and bigger. How can we make this even better? And that's the right mindset to have, because that's how we will bring more women into the sport and share those stories.
Right.
As you said. I mean, what have you shared, Cassandra, is there's so much going on. I mean, myself, and as I'm sure many other people, women, will be glued to their screens or at the roadside cheering for the woman racing at the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift, because it's just really a celebration. Like you said, it's a huge party which it will travel through 3 countries, which is the first time ever. So that's even better. And there's a summit finish at the iconic Alpe d'Huez. So that's, the cherry at the top of the cake.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to kind of bring now to round the kind of our conversation to a question that I ask all of our guests, which kind of almost summarizes what and defines their vision.
Mm.
And the question is this: what does success look like to you?
Success is a contribution to a future that is more inclusive, that includes a welcoming environment for riders of every background across cultures, and also inclusive leadership. And so that's for me, success looks like that. I think that the bike industry's health relies on more inclusivity. I think the world's health relies on more connectivity. And so success for me is being actively contributing to.
Very good. I mean, it perfectly summarizes what we have been discussing. From the first question that I asked you about how you, from your personal passion, now you came to work at Liv, it summarizes that, I believe. So there is this tradition that I started on the podcast that every guest leaves a question to my next guest, not knowing who they are. So the question that was left for you is the following: what advice would you give your younger self?
That's so good. Actually, I was talking to younger me. And it was about confidence, actually. It was being confident in who you are, and that your unique expression is what really the world needs. And even to connect back to Taylor Swift, I think she's immensely talented, yes, but she is more and more of who she is. The more that she reveals that, the more inspiring it is. And I think that's true for any individual. What's written on your heart, to find expression for that in the world, that's your superpower, right? Nobody else has that. And the world needs more of that. And so I would tell younger Cassandra, that to be confident in who she is and what she believes in and what she loves, and to let that always be the focus, and to take courageous action.
It's so important. Confidence defines what you think you can do, defines how you perceive yourself. It can define your life. So yeah, it's so important to have more self-confidence, more self-belief, because that will help you take bigger leaps. Speak with someone that you wouldn't feel confident speaking, but I could go on and on. But yeah, confidence is a cornerstone of any person willing to learn and develop. So with that in mind, and following on the tradition, what question would you like to leave to my next guest?
I was thinking about this. Actually, it was relating towards mentorship, but I would ask, how have they identified powerful guides and mentors in their career, in their lives? Like, how did you find that? How did you find that for yourself? Because I think it's so important, and it's not always a formal program that allows you to get there. And I think to talk more about that role and how we identify those people is really beneficial.
Brilliant question. It's a very apt question to any person working in the cycling industry, because as we have touched on this through our conversation, the importance of it is not to be dismissed. Cassandra, has been a huge pleasure chatting with you, getting to know you more, and really understanding what drives you and what is the purpose that you have, and really sharing also your passion for music, which is quite important in your life.
Thank you, Pedro, and thank you for being so intentional, and also for doing I think you have done the research, and you have asked great questions, and I want to pay you a compliment for that. Really skillful work that you're doing, and also for this platform that you've created that's so meaningful. Thank you for all of it. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in this episode of Ride to Success. It has been a pleasure speaking with Cassandra Spring. I hope you found inspiration on how Cassandra is shaping the future of women's cycling and fostering community growth. Stay tuned to more episodes where we continue to explore the dynamic landscape of cycling, and tune in to next week's episode where Cassandra's question will be answered by my next guest. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. For more updates and to connect with me on social media, just go to LinkedIn and type Pedro Couto Lopez. That's my name. I'm your host. And follow as well on Instagram, Ride to Success. Until next time, keep pedaling forward and ride to your own success.